Pat Leonard joins us, New York Daily News, covering this Giants embarrassment yesterday and the loss to the Rams. Pat, we appreciate a few minutes. Thanks for coming on Big Board Sports.
Roger and Chris, you got it. I'm trying to keep my day pleasant, but I'll talk Giants.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, all right, let me just say, how bad was it Sunday watching the Giants and the Rams?
You know what? It felt like the kind of game where, you know, you get your stat packet after the game, right? And normally you're dissecting who played well, who didn't. But this game was so beyond stats. Like, it doesn't matter what happened, what's in the box score. What mattered was staring at all of the gray seats in the third quarter. What mattered was watching them run it up to 48-10. I was actually wondering, I mean, they basically mercy ruled the Giants. You know, Sean McVay took out Goff and Gurley before the 2-minute warning, and they were actually kneeling, or way before that, in fact, and they were actually kneeling the ball in victory formation before the 2-minute warning. One of the other writers was saying he doesn't know if he's ever seen that before. So this is the type of game that gets people fired.
Yeah, and that's my next question. Is McAdoo and Reese going to be fired, and when?
I think it'll be at the end of the season, and in my opinion, it'll be both of them. I know Mara and the Giants' track record says that they don't like to blow it up like that, and I understand that, but this is such a unique situation. You have the GM who was basically put on notice a couple of years ago when Coughlin got fired, and Reese should have been fired but wasn't. And then you have a head coach who, even after going 11-5, a lot of people felt like it seemed like he could be in over his head just based on how he was managing the team, managing the media, managing the New York spotlight, etc. And here, this team, they hadn't quit on him prior to this game. And I'm not saying all the players did, but even though they were 1-6 going into this, there was reason to believe that the players were still competing for this head coach. But the way the defense played in this game raised the question of how many guys are still playing hard enough for McAdoo, not to mention that their depth talent also is an extra poor reflection on Reese. You know, it was already the offense and the offensive line and everything that was a poor reflection on Reese, but there are a lot of other NFL teams that are banged up, but, you know, you see Washington go up to Seattle and beat the Seahawks with an offensive line that, it's a patchwork offensive line, so the injuries aren't an excuse. That reflects on the GM, and that reflects on the coach.
Pat Leonard of the Daily News with us here, and you can find him on Twitter at PLeonardNYDN. You'll also find him on SNY breaking down the Giants at times as well. All right, Pat, so that lead, if they're going to get rid of the GM and they're going to get rid of the head coach, are they going to get rid of the quarterback? And I know you wrote about all three involved parties, and you can find links to those pieces on Pat's Twitter page. So is Eli Manning a guy who's going to go as well?
It makes me feel like that this could be it for Eli, because if this is headed for a total overhaul, I mean, of course it would most likely be the decision of the next general manager and head coach, right? So it wouldn't happen right away. But if I'm Jerry Reese, if I'm Ben McAdoo, and I'm acting as if I'm staying until next year, especially given how poorly Manning played in yesterday's game, I need to see what I have for the future. I'm going to have a top 3, top 5 pick in this draft. And I have Davis Webb sitting there, who I don't know what he can do in a regular season game. I know the Giants were preparing to groom him. He hasn't even been active for a game yet. But they have to stop focusing on making this season one that matters. And, I'm not saying you always want to win games, but it's the players' job to go on the field and play hard. And the players need to do that and try to win a game. But if you're in upper management, putting Davis Webb in the game right now isn't giving up on your season. It's being realistic and understanding that the season is over and the priority needs to be moved forward. And that's why I really think that if the coach goes and the GM go, like in this game against the Rams, even though the defense was playing poorly, Manning had a chance to keep the Giants in the game basically through halftime into the third. And his turnovers and missed throws, like that missed throw to Shepard, and then Goff turning around and hitting Watkins for that touchdown, that 14-point swing ended the game. And that was no fault of guys quitting on McAdoo. That wasn't the defense's fault. That was Eli Manning's fault. And, if your 2-time Super Bowl winner isn't good enough to even keep you in the games into the third quarter, and you're having a total overhaul coming in the offseason, then maybe it's time to cut your losses with no guarantee money left on his contract after this year.
Pat Max Kellerman on ESPN's First Take just said, in his opinion, Eli Manning quit on his team yesterday. You agree with that?
Eli Manning? No, I don't agree with that. I think what you're seeing with Eli Manning is that he's not making the plays that he needs to. No, I mean, when Eli Manning drops back and Sterling Shepard runs a post route, by the way, that was a great play call by Mike Sullivan, and if Ben McAdoo had a part in it, it was a great call by them, too, to take a shot there on first down, because they were trying to swing the momentum back in their favor after that ridiculous 52-yard touchdown for Robert Woods on the screen on 3rd and 33. So they took a really good shot, and when Manning misses a throw like that, he misses a throw. I mean, listen, if Eli were tanking a game or giving up on his teammates, he would hand the ball off to Aaron Donald and block for him on the way back to the other end zone. I think that's I like Max Kellerman, but that's an ignorant comment.
Pat, I know some people were cautious about this Giants team at the beginning of the season because they didn't upgrade the running back position, because it was the same offensive line. But this was still an 11-5 football team last year, and now we're talking about perhaps blowing it all up completely. How did this go so wrong so quickly, where you have even dissension amongst the ranks, a suspension to DRC, a suspension to Janoris Jenkins?
Well, it all goes back to the fact that Jerry Reese watched last season, watched his team get demolished in Green Bay, and said to himself, I'm sticking with this offense. And right then and there, I know he signed Brandon Marshall, and obviously Brandon Marshall being a bust was a huge part of it, why it didn't work out. And he did draft Evan Ingram, yes, but Evan Ingram is a special player. That doesn't mean you don't address your offensive line. You know, whether Reese drafted a good player in the first round or not, you have to look at the fact that Andrew Whitworth's there surrendering zero pressures when he faces the Giants to Jared Goff, while the Giants have an offensive line problem week in and week out. This season all started with the offense not scoring points, going 3 and out, putting the defense on its heels, the same problems that they had last year that Reese did not address in the offseason. They were 11-5 last year, but they won a lot of close games by the skin of their teeth because their defense didn't give up touchdowns. That was the reason why. And the Giants thought they were closer than they were. Their GM acted that way. And not only did he not address their biggest issues, he didn't increase or add significant depth. I mean, so they have guys playing now who are, whether they're playing hard or not, they don't have the talent to compete at some positions. That is all the general manager. And that's why I think there still are a significant amount of players who are playing hard. There are just guys out there who aren't, the caliber of player that down in and down out are going to give you a chance to win a game.
Pat, we appreciate a few minutes. I know it's just I can't believe where we were in the preseason and all the discussion in the preseason, how about good this team could be and maybe make a run at the Super Bowl to where we're at now. It's mind-boggling. It's ridiculous, and it really, I guess the short answer to the question you asked me, how did we get here, is that anything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong, and even more. You know, even the suspensions and these guys not showing up to practice and showing a clear disrespect for McAdoo. There's probably more there than we realize or that we know about right now, but maybe it'll come out soon. We'll wait and see. Pat Leonard, we appreciate a few minutes. Keep up the great work with the New York Daily News.
Go read Pat's stuff again on Twitter at @PLeonardNYDN. There's some good stuff about what might be down the road for McAdoo and Reese. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you, Pat.
Thanks, Roger. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.